Hello, and welcome to the first part of the behind the scenes for Misty Island. If you don't know what Misty Island is, it's a Let's Play series that I did for Christmas last year, that I released one episode per day up until Christmas, so the 1st to the 25th. And that series is completely finished now, so if you'd like to watch it, it's available on my channel. But even if you haven't watched it yet, you can feel free to watch this behind the scenes video as well, because this first part is going to be spoiler free. I'm only going to be showing you how I built this island, from start to sort of where we are right now when we take a look at the map behind me. And even though the Let's Play series has a lot of mystery elements in it that are revealed as you walk through the story with me, you're not going to be spoiled from watching this first episode, but I'm not going to say the same thing for the upcoming parts. I believe these behind the scenes videos are going to be 3 videos in total. That's what it looks like at the moment anyway, from having started to work with the footage that I gathered as I built and recorded all this. So yeah, the upcoming parts are going to be spoilers, but not this one. So first things first, let me take you back to where it all started. It was the 20th of November 2024. It was a Wednesday, and I was just getting ready for bed. I was having a shower, and as always happens, when you have a shower, you have the best ideas. I can't be alone in that. And that was when the first idea for sort of the outline of the story was hatched. And I knew what I wanted my hero to be like, I knew what I wanted my villain to be like, and sort of what the story was going to be about and where it would all lead up to. And that was it. And I wrote that down in my notes on my phone before going to bed, and I had all these things moving around in my head as I fell asleep. And waking up and after work the next day, I sat down and wrote out a bunch of things in a Word document and actually sat down to think about, is this actually something that I could plausibly do? Because I wanted to make it an advent calendar. That was an idea that I have been working with in the past that I actually failed to do the first time that I attempted it. That was back when I made the Vicious Machinima series that ended up being 4 parts, because I hadn't taken into account, the amount of work that I was gonna have to do. So I was thinking about, maybe I can make it, but in a different format. And that's when, the Let's Play idea came to me, and I realized that, this is a good idea. I could go with it. And if I make it a Let's Play series, it's very possible for me to actually manage to release 1 episode per day from the 1st to the 25th and be able to make it. So I had like half of November, like I think 2 weeks in November, to prepare everything, and then I was gonna have to do the rest while I was releasing videos, basically. So I had that idea on the 20th. The 21st, I actually sat down and wrote it down, and I decided that, let me just try to build this island that it is going to take place on. Let me see what I can do, and if I actually manage to create something, then let's see what I can do about the Let's Play series. So I had a very short time frame to work with. I started building this in SimCity 4 on the 21st, and then I had up until that weekend to film the first Let's Play video, the pilot episode, you could say. Because I also needed to have enough time during the next week to edit everything and actually see if I could make it work, and not have to scramble the following weekend to film and edit and everything, because the 1st of December was a Sunday the next weekend, and I wouldn't have time to do everything if I didn't film that weekend. So that was sort of the time limit that I had set for myself. I was trying to do it, and we're gonna go back to the footage when I was building this island in SimCity 4 and see what happened. So of course the first thing that I did after booting up the game was finding a good map to use, and the smallest size is the one that you have to go with to match with the sizes in The Sims 2. And I knew 2 things starting this. I knew that I wanted it to be an island, and I knew that I needed some piece of land that still like was connected to the landmass that I could use to have a road on, because I knew that I needed to have somewhere to actually place the lots before I moved them, and that was what I was going to use that piece of land for. So I created 2 parts of this, one island in the middle and then that little piece of land on the side as well. And of course I was just freestyling the shape of the island. Like, I didn't know at all what I wanted it to look like, so I went back and forth a lot here, and it sort of came together piece by piece. And I was messing around with the different tools as well, trying to be kind of gentle with it. And I also try to keep things as flat as possible to make things easier in The Sims 2 as well, because I was gonna make some adjustments in game, of course, as well, but the better I could make the sort of the base material, the better. And then I was very surprised that there was this huge blue whale. All of a sudden, I had no idea that there were blue whales in SimCity 4, so I was sort of transfixed staring at that for a while and just admiring it. But yeah, so that is everything I did in this game, and this is actually the point when I just randomly decided to name this Misty Island. I hadn't thought to do that before this point, it just sort of randomly came to me, and that's what I ran with after this point. So here you see me adding in the road as well, as I mentioned, saving and of course moving that file to my Sims 2 game in the folders there as well. And then it was time to create the neighborhood. So I'm finding that here in the list. And yeah, I was just deciding to go with Misty Island after this point. So this is where we are in game. And of course, what happens after you import the SimCity 4 maps into the Sims 2 is that they are mirrored. So that's why it doesn't look the same as it did in SimCity 4. And the first thing that I did was adding in a sky. But at this point, I was sort of having the idea that things would be sort of dark and dreary at the start, like the mist was not going to be just around the island, it was also going to like encompass the whole sky, that sort of thing. So that's why I also made the sky completely dark and gray like this. That's going to change later though, to be a little bit more cheerful at least. And I started out just sort of checking things out, adding in some decorations here. I knew that I wanted the back of the island to be kind of rocky and incompassable, like that's not used by anyone. So yeah, I added in these rocks, cliffs, things like that on the back of it. And then I'm adding in the, I entered the modify neighborhood terrain sheet, so I can actually change the shape of the island itself. And I was working a lot with the flattening, moving things down here at first, but things are a lot easier the flatter they are. Of course, it doesn't have to be completely flat. Having some lot elevation is fun to work with, but to make things easier for myself, that was sort of my aim with this. But I also knew that I wanted there to be a mountain on the island, and that was sort of where the villain was gonna reside. So I made that up there, decided to make that a really, really steep drop there to do whatever I am ending up doing later. Trying desperately not to spoil things here. But yes, so around this area I knew that I wanted there to be docks, so I tried to make the terrain as close to the water surface as possible. And I was trying to also envision like where are the actual lots also going to go, so that I knew sort of what shape I wanted around that area. I knew that I wanted the docks to be sort of like at the corner, so I could use the terrain in that way. So that's why I styled that sort of curve that's very close to the water surface. And yeah, after this point, I also was still trying to figure out if this was going to be a good mountain piece, and I added in some more rocks to try to make it all feel more I guess alive, and try to get a visual of what the end product was gonna be like. So this helped a lot actually to figure out if the shape was good or if I was gonna have to change some things. So, and still working with the flattening here. But I was really starting to get somewhere with this, and I was starting to feel ready to also, you know, try out placing down the lots after this. So, and I don't think that I at this point knew exactly what I was going to do with the lighthouse. I knew that I needed to have one, but not exactly where it was going to go. So at this point I sort of left that part open. But I was gonna, yeah, as I said, I knew I wanted the villain's lair to be up there, so I was adding some decorations around it to, again, you know, visualize things for myself and sort of prepare it, map it out mentally. And that was actually the first piece of the island that sort of came together for me, even though it ended up being an actual building that I built very, very late into the process, funnily enough. And after that, I also ended up flattening this part of the terrain because I needed the lots to also be flat when I moved them. Maybe that wasn't very important, but it just felt better that way. And as you can see, the terrain is sort of not agreeing with me all times doing this, but yes, eventually I figured it out. And I was also playing around with the idea of maybe adding in some textures here to the water surface. I wasn't sure exactly in what way I was gonna use it, but no, I ended up not going with it in the end. I couldn't really make it look good. And at this stage, I'm starting to try to figure out where to put the lots, and actually hovering the lots over the terrain here, I could see that it's still really uneven. So I'm going in once again, flattening the terrain a lot to make it easier for myself to place down the lots and to have something better to work with. And yeah, I'm going back and forth quite a lot here because I'm so close to the water surface at this point that just one click down, I am below the water surface. So yeah. And this is actually where I can start to, well, very painstakingly count how far it is from the road to the island. And oh wow, this was quite a challenge. As you can probably see, this was not fun. But I ended up figuring out in the end how far it was. And I was gonna have to move it quite a bit. You see, 50 left, 20 forward, I think I wrote it. And this is just out of the game, and me trying it out in the lot adjuster. And here I am so confused. Like, I needed to move it 50 left, but I was limited to 13. And I tried it right instead, and moving it right, I could move it all of those 50 tiles. So at this point, I was convinced that, oh, maybe I have it wrong. I'm actually supposed to move it right, but yeah. And here you see that I made another mistake, that I'd actually exited the game without building anything on the lot. So I had to go into the game again, place down a little tile like that, and I went out again. And I opened up the lot adjuster again. Of course, I was gonna have the same issue again, so I just used right, because I just figured that was the issue, that I had misunderstood the way that I was gonna move the lot. It was actually gonna be moved right. And I unchecked the keep current lot elevation because I wanted it to match the neighborhood. And here you can see that I got an error. It didn't work, so I tried the same thing again. Tried to, move it as far as I needed to. Tried again to check if something had changed with the left option, but it hadn't, so I went again with right and then the front, and nope, still the same issue. So had to go back again. And at this point I was trying out different things just because I didn't know what was wrong. So I tried to just move it forward, and that worked. So then I just had to move it right, and I tried like halfway. No, still didn't work. And I tried just 20, still didn't work. And I went in again, and I was just doing my best here to do something. So moved it 10, and that worked actually, I think. So then I just tried to move it full on again, and it didn't work. So yeah, I just keep, as I said, going back and forth. And went back into the game again and tried to desperately find where my lot had ended up. I was clicking around all over, like trying to calculate, like where has it gone? Like, is it in the middle of the water, or is it where did it end up? How far did I actually move it? Looking around. I was really mystified at this point. I didn't know at all, like what had gone wrong. What did I do? And then all of a sudden I found it like in the middle of the side here. And well, after this point I was like, no, I'm doing something wrong. I had to rethink this. And I also was realizing that, okay, so I moved it forward and then I moved it right, and that actually ended up being the wrong way after all. So I'm actually gonna have to, as I first thought, move it left, not right. But I was also thinking, like, what on earth is stopping me from doing that? And my theory at this point was that maybe it doesn't want me to move it that far because of the water. Maybe like the end of how far I can move it left is actually where the water starts. So let me just build a bridge of terrain up until the island so that I can actually probably move the lot as far as I need to. That was my theory at this point. It ended up not being true at all. So as you are gonna see later, I renamed it instead to left so that I knew how I was gonna do it. And I also realized after moving it the first time that it was very difficult to find it after I had just built a tile on it, so I built some walls instead. And here you can see, even though I built that sort of bridge with the terrain, it still didn't allow me to move it more than 13 left. So I started out moving it as far as I could, and then I went back again and made a second adjustment, and that allowed me to move it a little bit more further. So I first was able to move 13, then 26, and that meant that I had just 16 left. So I did some quick calculations, went back into the game, and I found the lot. And as you can see, it is moved to the correct place. However, it's not really looking that good. It's covered in terrain. So I'm gonna take a look at that later. But first I wanted to remove that, the bridge that I created with terrain. And well, I can't really see very much of what I'm doing because unfortunately the default terrain that I'm using makes whatever I am like when I'm dragging over a piece of land, I can't see it using this terrain. So I'm kind of blind with what piece of land I have marked, so I'm gonna have to go a bit on faith as I am clicking the buttons if I am marking too much. And that was what ended up happening, that I accidentally marked way too much of the piece of land and deleted it, and yeah, as you can see, I'm doing it again. So I unfortunately had to go back and forth here quite a bit, try to fix whatever I was destroying. Well, I mean, I did manage to fix it in the end, but it was for sure annoying. And I was sort of swearing to myself here. Like, yeah, I was not happy about this. But yeah. So it was just going over again what I had already done. But at least I had managed to move one lot at this point, and I had started to learn a few things. And this was when I actually entered the lot, and I could see that, okay, well, it sort of created this ugly dip into the terrain, and I don't like that. So I was just destroying it and decided to start again. I had learned some things, I knew what to do and what not to do at this point, so I was confident that doing it again, I was going to be able to actually do it correctly this time. And for some reason here I'm fixing up this part of the terrain as well. I think that my idea here was that it was probably going to be visible from the island, so I wanted it to look, a little bit presentable at least. So then I put down a new lot, exited the game, and then I was gonna do the same change with the lot adjuster again. So I started out just moving it by increments as far as I could go, and I brought up a notepad to take notes on, and a calculator as well to sort of count it all out so I didn't make a mistake. And yeah, I had to save it 3 times to get it to the position that I wanted it to be in, and that was when I had it sitting correctly. And that was when I could start to sort of map out where I wanted the other lots to be. By the way, the way that I have edited this, it looks like I'm sort of just minimizing and opening up the game again. That's not the case at all, that's just editing. I was actually properly closing the game using the lot adjuster and then rebooting the game again, just so that you're not confused about that. You actually have to close the game fully in order to use the lot adjuster. So after that, I actually had a position to work with. So I could use the way that I had positioned that first lot to map out where the other lots were gonna go. So I could take how far I had moved the first lot and then add or remove from that to get the position for the new lots that I was going to add. So that was actually a good start, and something that I would recommend if you're doing something like this and you need to move lots really, really far, that you're using one lot to move that first, and then you sort of use that as a navigation point for the remaining lots. The only thing that I ended up not thinking about at first, but then I think this is around the time when I was realizing it, is that you also have to count from the exact same tile where you started with the first lot as well. So as you can see, this lot that I am renaming right now, I have actually moved a couple of tiles from the initial point. So you also have to adjust according to that. And this is where I'm trying to use the paste history in order to get the modified terrain sheet in again and realize that, okay, the Sims 2 doesn't like that, unfortunately. So yeah. And yeah, this is where I sort of realize where I want the lighthouse to go. So I decided to create this little island, like really, really small, tiny piece of land, just poking up. And this is where, yeah, as I said, I was gonna put down the lighthouse. And yeah, it was interesting working with this because, of course, there was no piece of land at all. here before this. I just had to create it all from scratch and just mark tiny pieces of land and move them up and down to get a good shape and not get too much at the same time. So, and I was kind of pleased with that, what I had come up with there. So yeah, and there I exited the game and didn't add anything to the lots. So I had to reboot the game one more time. And well, yeah, remember to always build something on the lots that you're gonna move. Otherwise you will do the same thing that I just did. And I also decided to rename the lot that I was done with an underscore done after it, just so that I didn't mix them together, so it would be easier to keep track of what was what and which ones I had already done. And that's something that I'm gonna keep doing later. So now that I had actually figured out sort of the limitations of this and what I wanted to do, it was something that I could do pretty quickly. And as you see, I kept the lot edges the neighborhood to make sure that it had the current lot elevation, but also that it was matching the rest of the neighborhood. So the new lots and their new positions weren't overriding anything. It was just the lot terrain that I had created myself. And that is the way that ended up working for me this time. So this is the first lot, and I'm adding in a little pool tile there because I have a water mod that makes the ocean and the ponds that you have on lots just look like a black void if you don't have a pool tile on the lot. So that's why I'm adding that in. And I also used the move objects on sheet to remove all roads, because this is going to be a completely off-road area, of course. There shouldn't be anything like that. So and I also renamed all of these done because I didn't want to move these either after this. And again, adding in pool tiles here. And I'm gonna be also removing the road, of course. And this lot, as well as the two upcoming, are also gonna be community lots. So I'm gonna be changing that later. And this is also when I realized that, the sky and everything looks so dark and dreary, and even though it's gonna be misty and a mystical island, I just didn't really like the way that the gray was just all around like that. So I tried out some different skies here, and actually stumbled over one that sort of blew my mind a little bit, like, oh wow, this looks really mystical and magical. This is actually really cool. Maybe I can use this. Maybe that's part of the spell, that like it's always night and you're like in the galaxy or something like that. So I ended up going into the lot to check it out, and unfortunately when I took a look up at the sky, I just saw that, wow, that's really grainy, and I mean, it's kind of pretty, but it doesn't really look the way that I want it to. So I just like, no, that's not gonna work. So just went back to the drawing board there, and didn't use that in the end. So I tried this one out, and it's one of my favorites. I use this one quite a lot, and several of the similar ones to this, but it just was too cheerful for me. I still wanted it to be sort of strange feeling, and this ended up being the best one. It's an Assassin's Creed sky that moves on its own, like the clouds on it as well. So that's the one that I ended up going with. And this is actually the lot where we are by the ocean edge. And this is apparently what happens when you place down a lot like this and like part of it is over water, is that the entire lot just becomes land. So I had to go in and just lower the terrain here to make this very, very steep edge by the water. And this is like sped up I think 20 times. So this really took me quite a long time to do, even though it looks really, really fast here in this footage. But yeah, what I basically did was that I lowered it as much as I could to like the bottom of the ocean there on the edge, and then try to look at like more of a natural cliff edge like this, by just raising it bit by bit, not being like pin straight with it, just being a bit messy, just to get it looking more, I guess, natural. And that was the edge of that. And yeah, changed also the lot type to community lot. And that was also the same thing that I was going to do for this lot, and also this last one. All of those three needed to be community lots, because yeah, my character was going to visit them later. And then I had one residential lot where someone was actually going to live. So after this point, I was checking out also the hood decorations, if there was anything that I wanted to add maybe. But in the end, I didn't go with anything. So taking a look here at the docks, that lot that I was gonna build as well, and sort of mapping out where I wanted to go. And I used a different lot as sort of a baseline this time. And yeah, I did some calculations here to see how far I needed to move it. And yeah, at least I remembered to go in and build something on this one. So that was that. And then I also, of course, needed to have the lighthouse here. So because I had done that, I could start to map out, okay, it looks like I am actually looking at another one. So this is another lot that I was going to build. And that's also something that I am checking out where I need to move it at this point as well. Making some calculations. That was also going to be another residential lot. And then also, of course, building something on that so that I can actually move it as well. I also renamed the first one there to beach, because I thought that I needed the docks to be a beach lot. Later turns out not to be the case, actually. So the thing with beach lots is that you're not going to be able to edit the beach area. Yeah, so you'll see that later. But I went ahead and moved them as far as I needed to. And of course, keeping on checking keep current lot elevation, and I kept the lot edges the neighborhood. And I am yeah, working with the calculator. I realized that I didn't really need the notepad for this. I just needed to sort of keep subtracting the number of changes I made. And then I was in the game again and saw that the lot didn't really end up where I was expecting it to. But also this, I must have made some sort of error with this as well, because this also was like in the middle of the terrain like this. So I think that I probably missed unchecking like keep current lot elevation or something like that when I moved it. That was probably the reason. And this was moved too far to the left, or to the right, I mean. So I actually had to subtract 4 tiles to the left. And I went out again and kept doing the changes here. And yeah, at this point I also tried to just, uncheck the keep current lot elevation thing, but it was too late. I had already moved this lot, so there was no saving it at this point, unfortunately. So in the end, I actually decided to bulldoze it and just start again. And yeah, I had to modify the neighborhood terrain again to sort of flatten out the mistake that I had made here. But it was all good. This actually also created sort of an elevated piece. That was pretty interesting as well. So I'm making some adjustments here. And interestingly enough, I learned here that when you move the terrain up and down, the trees don't actually move visibly until you change into the lot tab, or you change away from the neighborhood decoration tab. So, and then of course this lot, I also had to make some changes, and yeah, I'm able to change the lot elevation here. Don't remember why. I must have changed it from a beach lot again at this point, because I'm able to edit it here. So I don't remember what order I did things in, to be honest here. But yeah, that was what I had to do. This could not be a beach lot as I was making these changes, because I was not able to adjust the beach edge, you could say. And yeah, I did the same thing as I did with the first one here. That I just, try to keep things a bit uneven, try to make it look like a sort of natural slope down into the ocean bottom here. And speaking of the ocean bottom, I actually also, doing this, learned that there's a limit to how far down you can actually move. Like, well, once I tried to go further down than this, it just gave me an error, like, no, you can't go further. You are at the bottom of the world here. You are not able to go below this point. So that was interesting to learn, that there's actually a limit apparently. Maybe I wonder if there's a limit to how high you can make something as well. Yeah, probably. Never tried that before. And I kept just changing things around here to make it look, like I said, pretty jagged and natural looking. But then this side, I also wanted it to be a sloping beach area, kind of. At this point, I think I was thinking that I wanted it to be like sand here as well. But yeah, I was gonna change around things later. Yeah, this was sort of the way that I did it. And also there was this weird hole here on the side. So I decided to also sort of add that into my terrain to make things look more natural like this. And then I renamed it to Done, because it was, of course, it was done. And after this, I decided to try to map out the lot for the lighthouse, because I started doing it earlier, but before I actually had this, the docks lot that I just completed, I didn't have a good lot that I could make a baseline for it. And after I had also realized that I had miscalculated how far it was better to get that done, and then I could add this one in, to make sure that it ended up in the correct place, and yeah, that everything was good. So going into this one and just building a little piece of wall here again, and just matching things, seeing what so that everything is correct. And I think I'm also going to be adding in that, yeah, exactly. So here I'm adding in that last lot here. That's going to be sitting here up on the hill, and trying to figure out like where I want it, and ended up actually moving it further to the left than I had decided from the start. So it's pretty much lined up with the first residential lot that I had. And then of course, happily remembering to add in the wall before I'm exiting the game. And then we're back again to the lot adjuster and making some more adjustments. And as I've mentioned, I'm starting to get used to this at this point, so I'm just doing things pretty quickly. Just following the names that I have given the lots to make sure not to do it incorrectly. And after this, I think that there's only one lot that I did after this point that I'm going to show in this video. And we're back in the game again. You can see that the lot for the lighthouse is done. Something that I hadn't done at this point was that I hadn't checked the box that allows uneven roads. So at this point, it's like a completely flat surface, and I was not able to adjust it in any way. So that's actually something that I'm gonna go ahead and change later. But again, I was working on, making things look more natural and making the terrain work with the surroundings. So lots of slope work here, lots of digging down into the ground. And at this stage, I realized that if I made the area bigger that I was using to dig down, it was gonna be faster. But then I sized down again to make these finer adjustments. And this part of it, I decided to actually make it sort of a little outcropping down into the water there, to make it a little bit more interesting in shape. And then this, of course, was also going to be sort of sloped down to the water edge. And that was where I decided to put down the bridge as well. I actually ended up having a custom content object here that's an actual bridge that I was able to use. And also a little motorboat here that I could put down. And it wanted to sink down into the water at first, so I had to adjust the terrain a little bit for it. And then I actually also went ahead with some effects. That's by Sophie David, custom content objects, that adds some special effects from the neighborhood into the lots. So this is how I added in the fog and something that's called a low cloud in some lots as well. And then also seagulls as well. And I decided to put them down around the pool tile just so that I would be able to remember where I placed them after I had turned them invisible as well. That was sort of what I did that I thought felt logical at the time. And again, this lot as well had this really strange hole at the back of it, so I decided to incorporate that into the lot itself to make it a little bit more interesting. And this is actually where I'm gonna start to map out where I want the final lot for the villain at the top of the mountain. And I was using the most recent lot here to have a starting point from, and then just calculate how far it was from that. So yeah, I mean, this is a little bit annoying because when you're moving your mouse and over the terrain, things don't exactly go very smoothly. So you have to do it quite a few times to recount and make sure that you do everything correctly. But in the end, I managed to get it to the correct position, which was good. So adding in that obligatory wall piece, and after that point, just exiting the game one more time. And I am also going into the lighthouse lot there and checking the option for allow uneven roads, so that I was able to actually adjust all of the island and not just part of it. So that would allow me to do that later. And here I'm moving that big final lot, and it was gonna move quite far actually from the starting position. I managed to get it up there onto the hill on the first try, which was nice. And I got this really nice view from the edge of it, which was fun. Unfortunately, it was so high up that the sky didn't cover everything, so you can see this huge hole between the water edge and the actual sky. So here I was sort of scratching my head, like maybe I want to add in a like surroundings that go below as well. But I knew also that I didn't really have any good ones that would like fit the ocean like this, so yeah. And then I was back into the lighthouse lot, and I brought out this object that allows you to see the portals, make them visible so that you can edit where they actually are. And the only ones that I moved worked with were actually the pedestrian ones, meaning that I wanted to change where the Sims arrive and exit the lot. I wanted that to be like on the side where sort of you can walk down to the boat. So that was my logic, like that's where I want my Sims to end up. And yeah, after that, the island was done as well. And I was starting to work on the neighborhood decoration. And of course, there's no roads at all here on this island, and there shouldn't be any, but I still wanted it to be some sort of pathways, because I figured that, you know, even if they don't use cars on this tiny island, I mean, maybe they are riding bikes, they're certainly walking, there should be some kind of pathways here. So I ended up going with these cricket road pieces, dirt road pieces that I just placed down by hand, and just eyeballing sort of where I wanted them to go to create these sort of winding roads that led to different parts of the island. And of course, this was also fun because this also allowed me to sort of map out the paths that my character was gonna take as he eventually was moving around the island. So of course I needed there to be one road leading from the docks, because of course that's where everyone arrives to the island with the boats, and then they have to take this dirt road to get to the houses. And since there are two different like areas where the houses are located, there needed to be two different paths leading away. So I am adding in a second road up here that goes to the more desolate house, like the one that's a bit further away from the others. And I actually also added in the pieces in such a way that they are crossing over the lots in part, so that they're actually like when you're on the physical lots with the Sims, they are actually using the roads somewhat, or well, the roads are connected into the actual lots, you could say. And yeah, for some reason the paste history worked this time. I don't know why, but I don't know. I guess The Sims 2 likes it sometimes, and sometimes it really doesn't. But here I was trying to figure out sort of the slope angle and how to get that working with the road pieces. And I think I was sort of holding the camera a bit strangely maybe when I did this, because after I change the angle later, I'm actually gonna see that things are really not lining up at all. So I'm gonna have to redo that. Yeah, here you can see that this is not really lining up, so I'm moving that, and then when I go this way I can see, okay, but this angle isn't correct then, so I have to find the correct one, and then this one wasn't really working either. And yeah, so you can see this was really confusing to me, like what is going on with this? So I think I had to redo it, but I think this was the last time I had to. Yeah, now things are looking good. So this was sort of the road layout that I ended up going with. And as you can see, the road is going over the lot there. And on this lot, you can see that it actually is sort of entering the lot as well. So I'm moving the portals here as well for how they are entering and exiting the lot. And this is, of course, after I had built that first house. I decided not to add in the speed builds into this video because I just realized that this would turn out to be a monster of a video if I did. So instead I decided to make speed build videos separate from this. So that's something that I will be posting after this. Not sure when, but yeah, in connection to these behind the scenes videos being released anyway. So I'm just going to show you the actual lots that don't really have much on them, like this one, for example. That's just sort of a foresty area with a pit in it. Not very much else going on besides, you know, trees and that. So this really was a quick work building this, if you can even call it building when you're just plopping down trees. But yeah, it needed to be here, and it was important to the story to have this as well. And yeah, here I'm also working with the portals again, and I'm also adding in a pool tile, of course, to make the water visible, some more shrubbery, and something that I like to do also below trees and shrubs like this is to also work with terrain paint to make it seem a bit more interesting and more real, so it's just not one color, you know. I feel like below trees where there's a bit of shadow, things don't grow as much. And I also ended up placing down some spooky looking mushrooms and some more greenery here that you would find in a forest, just to make it more like, ambient, I guess. And then, of course, I needed to have some more effects. I added in, of course, the mist and the low cloud. Oh, well, the fog, it's called actually, fog and low cloud. And then I also thought that maybe I want to have some sort of smoking effect here in this pit, like some sort of cool thing. So I added in some black death smoke here. But yeah, I actually will remove that later because, I went into live mode and just checked out what it looked like, and it really didn't look good. So I'm gonna remove that later. And then around the edge here, I put in some more terrain paint to make it look more like an actual cliff, and some rocks here to make the edge where the terrain paint ends and the grass starts to just look more seamless, I guess. And then, of course, there also needed to be some more dirt below the trees, and also, you know, where that path ends, it looked very empty, so I also added in my own sort of dirt path around there. And of course I need to have some fog, low clouds, but I also added in some seagulls here because it was at the water edge, so I felt like some seabirds just made sense at this point. So, and that was the whole lot, and I took a moment here to just admire the views over the water and just take in how immersive things started to become. So it was really nice to actually see everything just come together like this. And at this stage, I also decided to put down some more decorations here in the hood view, some trees, and this is what really made everything come together. It was at this point that it just felt so immersive, and that this was actually a wild place. Like without the trees, everything was just feeling so unfinished, you know. But as soon as the trees came in like this, it just, completely different feeling. And I'm adding in a mixture of leaf trees and then also pine trees, or these Christmas trees. And different colors, just plopping them down, randomly trying to make it look wild, and also trying to place them down on flat surfaces so that they're not sort of hanging mid-air, which is always a struggle when you're working with terrain like this, because from this point of view it's difficult to actually see what you're doing, especially if you're working with clusters of trees and not just singular ones. But I think I did okay at this point. And around the higher parts here, I decided to put in some more big trees, and I think this came with Bon Voyage, to make them look more like, I don't know. I just felt like around that part of the island it made more sense to have those high trees, I guess. And then I'm here again at the docks, and at first just sort of admired the visuals with the trees. And this is the point when I realized that, oh my god, I have made this a beach lot and I can't build anything here. And I had to just exit the game and uncheck that setting on this lot. At this point, I tried to scramble to remember which one was which because I didn't have the beach tag still in the name. And here I moved that beach lot thing, and after that I could actually build properly over the water. So that was what I had to do. And that was after I had built that lot as well, and I moved on to the lighthouse. And this is also just looking so great, I think, with the way that I was able to move, change the elevation of the entire island, also where the road is supposed to be. So that's really nice. And again, I'm just taking a look here in the neighborhood view, admiring my work so far, checking out all of the houses and just enjoying the immersion of everything. And then it was time to actually add in the mist, and that is a cloud object that is just lowered to ground level, you could say. And that is something that I put down around the entire island like this, around the edge of it, to just make it look like some mystical mist surrounding the island like this. And I ended up putting in some high clouds as well to sort of tie it all together a bit more. And this is when everything just started to really come together for me, and I could really envision the whole story of this place. And then I was building the next house here. And I have mentioned that I was on a time crunch, and I had started to also, on the side of this, map out the story and what I had to do in each episode. So I realized that these houses are all I had to build for now. The rest can actually wait. So this was as far as I went with it at the start. And I'm making some final adjustments here to just make the houses visible. The mist had to be there, of course, but I also wanted the houses to be a visual feature that you would be able to see and not hidden completely. And that is as far as we're gonna go this time, because after this point there's gonna be a bunch of spoilers, like I'm gonna sit down to create the Sims and build the story elements and everything. So let's just wait for that, for the upcoming behind the scenes parts. And as I said, if you haven't seen the Let's Play series, it's completed and available on my channel. And there's also a playlist for your convenience if you want to watch it. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye!